Hey everybody, it's Toussaint Morrison. Thank you so much for tuning in to Social Science Club. I appreciate you being here. If you find this video of value, click like. You want to get more, hit subscribe, or you want to share it with somebody that you think might find use out of it, share it with them. We're going to jump right into it. I grew up with a certain person in my life, a family member, that would say often, I don't have any, and then they would insert said tangible product there or whatever it would be. And I would hear that all throughout my life. And I believed them whenever they said it. And I know that they believed themselves when they said it. And part of this channel will be covering obviously a lot of civic engagement, community engagement. And what I do is I go from content to context to larger lesson. And the content is that statement of saying, I don't have any. I don't got, I have never had, and then you enter said thing. And the context of that, what would happen was it would be true all the time. And I heard a quote from Richard Bach, who wrote a few books, and he said, argue for your limitations, and they are yours. And I resonated with that so deeply because I thought about that statement. I thought about so many other statements that I've been saying in my life or that I've heard and have adopted. And I've said to myself, oh yes, that must be true. I don't have any of that either. Or I can't do, in the I don'ts and I can'ts, becomes a belief. And so when I start believing those statements that I'm saying, then it becomes part of my life. And my life then follows the language. Now, what we're going to get into right now is not only eliminating that, but then what happens when you reverse it. And so what I did back in February of 2020 was I attended a large group therapy session that took about, I think, 3 or 4 days. It felt like a month, but it was definitely just a long weekend. And what we started doing first was monitoring and taking inventory of our language. And once we started doing that, then I could really hone in on what am I saying to myself? What are the directions I'm giving myself? And then that then plays out in my life. So there's a story I'm telling myself, and then I follow that story, and that story becomes true because I wrote the story, and then I keep living it throughout my life. The thing with the subconscious is if you want to plant nightshade, it'll grow nightshade. You want to plant sunflowers, it'll grow sunflowers. I looked at a picture before I went to bed once, and for the rest of that night, had a dream about that entire scenario that was in that picture. My subconscious ate it right up. The subconscious does not judge a damn thing. It will just take it and run with it. Last night, I was watching Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Went to sleep. What did I have dreams about? Los Angeles in the 90s. And so the whole point is what you're putting into your brain and what you're saying is co-creating with your actual life. You are actually creating your life. You're the author of it. That's it. It's really not that complex. And when we go back to these I can'ts and I don'ts, then you surely won't. We'll go back to Richard Bach, argue for your limitations, and they are surely yours. And when I started to take inventory of what I was saying to myself, I really took a long, hard look in the mirror and documented some of those things. But then the other thing was the kind of being on autopilot. Yeah, I just take things like that I've been saying all the time. Like, oh, wow. You know, when I'm listening to somebody, I would just automatically say, wow, oh, wow. To somehow, it would just insert or like, it would be like an automatic response of like, I'm present, I'm listening. And it's not a bad or a good thing. It was just, oh, I'm saying that. Why am I saying that? And then getting to the negatives, to the I can'ts and I don'ts, that then had to be figured out. Why am I saying that? Where is that coming from? Let's get to the core of that and unravel that. And so getting to the bottom of a lot of that comes from my childhood. comes way, way back from my childhood. And my childhood is tricky because from 0 to 4, I was living in New Orleans. And then from 4 to now, I have basically been living in Minnesota, given, a decade and some other years where I was traveling with the band and yada, yada, yada. But the separation and what happened between 0 and 4 and then between 4 and 8 are a lot of traumatic stuff. And I had to get into the yarn ball of all that and unravel it out and then say, oh, that's why I'm saying that. I learned that as a kid. And then I have to go in, reprogram it, and consistently, persistently, frequently tap in with that and try to figure out and tap in with that and insert new language. The new language was when things started to change for me, because the old stories and the old programming runs out. And once you start to kind of spot where that's happening in your life, then it's you clean it up. But it is like playing whack-a-mole sometimes, because it just keeps popping back up. Your life is not an on-off switch. You're evolving all the time. Thoughts are flowing in and out. It's a stream. Things are moving and evolving and changing, ebbing and flowing all the time. And so once I got to the crux of, this is where this negative ass language is coming from. All right, let's reprogram some of this. Did that, and it's still obviously a process and continual work going forward. And a lot of the I don'ts and I can'ts, as cliche as this sounds, wasn't really replaced with I do and I can. It was replaced with I am, or I am being, or I believe. And once I started to embody the visions and goals and things that I wanted for myself, one of them being this YouTube channel, then things started, my body and my mind just started to react differently. I would just turn on to it and I'd be like, okay, we're gonna do that. There's no question about it, because I'm doing that already. And it really reframed everything in my life. It reframed my relationships with my friends, reframed my relationship with my family, and the big part that it did was it reframed the relationship I had with myself. And in changing the language and in not arguing for my limitations, and in fact being an advocate for my goals and dreams, then there was no more debating and arguing for limitations. There was no space for it at all. And so it doesn't have a space or really a platform at all in my mind to start debating and saying, well, what if this happens? Or I'm sure you can't. Even if it pops up, it's like, oh, there they are again. Cool. Let them come in and hang out for a little bit. We'll give them a chair. We're not gonna give them a foundation or a platform, but we'll give you a chair, and you'll get tired, and then, we'll see you on your way out. Because it's not what I learned is, when you don't have any more space for negative directions or in your mind or negative language, you accept that it's going to pop up at some times, but you do not give it a place to live. And so once that happens, then you're activating on sheerly who you believe you are, sheerly who you say you are, and that will all manifest forward for you. So Richard Bach, who wrote Argue for Your Limitations and They Are Surely Yours, there's a lot to that statement. There's a whole lot to that statement. And when I look back at the voice in my past and throughout my life that was saying, I don't have any, I took a long, hard look at it, and a part of it was, well, if you say you don't have any, then surely you won't. Now I go back to this old tale. There were two men, one that said he could and one that said he couldn't. They both were right. And it starts with, what is the story you're telling yourself? What is the language that you're using with yourself? What is the direction that you're giving yourself? So think about that. And I hope that that helps you going forward in your life to determine what you want going forward and who you're going to be and who you choose to be in certain moments. So I hope this video helped you out, and I'll be doing obviously more on this down the line. But yeah, just think about that quote, argue for your limitations and they are yours. However, if you're an advocate for your dreams and goals, they're yours as well. So I hope that helps you out. Hey, we'll see you in the next video.